guys, welcome back, and this is GrowerMD, and I figured I would take this next video to talk about my environment and my environmental controllers and a little bit of how this TrolMaster system is set up to run my particular room. I also got some new camera and audio equipment, so I thought I'd use it, get a good test in right now as well. So anyway, as I mentioned in the initial video, both of these rooms are run on TrolMaster Hydro-X and Aqua-X systems. Both of these have a lot of really powerful features for as simple and basic as they look. Some of the features that I think are the most important here are its internet connectivity and its ability to adapt and control almost any type of device that you have in your room, which makes it nice. You don't have to have anything really brand specific depending on what type of room you already have. If you want to come into a controller like this, you may need to get a few modules. They do kind of add up a little bit initially, but I do think that in the long run it is quite worth it. So what I have in this particular setup, we'll go over here and kind of start with the flower room setup first. This controller is a Leviton media panel, and I like these because it gives you a clean option to run your wires. The downside of the system is if you do not pre-plan it out, you can have a lot of wires running through your room to interconnect the modules. Some people don't care about that. Some people, it bothers them as far as the mess it makes. It does bother me. So anyway, I try to, from my various evolution of installations, try to finally incorporate the install into the walls. And instead of having things come out, try to do as many wall plates as possible. I did find a few places where I haven't changed them over yet, but overall, fits my needs. Not something I'm really worried about. But they do require a little bit of knowledge for crimping if you're going to do what I did, and connecting. You will be making cables and or connecting to a wall plate. If you don't care about the length of the cable, again, where they're routed, you can just plug and play with the connectors. Makes it really nice and easy to use. But I'll kind of go over into the actual controller and some of the menu screens here really quick. But first and foremost, what it has on the display screen here is it has your PPFD reading if you are using the light sensor. So this comes with its own mount that can be used on some EMT conduit. Mount it right at your canopy level, and I have it set to run at PPFD. My lights just kicked on, so it's set to 500, so you'll see it fluctuating a little bit as it's going to be gradually increasing. Eventually they'll get up to about that PPFD level, the intensity will level off, and then it'll just maintain as it goes from there, but it is going to do that over the next 15 minutes or so. Obviously I have temperature, humidity, and the CO2 ppm levels, which are just now increasing as the room is kicking on for the first time as well. Some of the modules in here, you can go into the menu system. You can look at your settings for various things. If you go back and you go to the side, you can look at some of your initial alerts, and then you can also look at the status of your various devices that you have. You can see here that it lists the humidity devices, H1 and H2. It has a CO2 device, it has 2 different light devices, and then it has 3 different temperature devices, and that's all that I have hooked up to run that room. And I'll kind of go over what each of them are. With the TrolMaster system used in conjunction with the Think Grow LEDs, you're able to do things like spectrum control and use a little bit of the far red side of the spectrum that the light emits. So you have basically both sides of this coming into a lighting adapter, which connects out to your lights, and then from there you have the ability to now adjust your percentage levels of the different sides, if you will, of the actual light. In this case, they do run at night, essentially right when lights kick off for 15 minutes, giving them some deep far red spectrum, which kind of helps trick the plants into believing that they are in shade, and that helps with some of the growth as well. As far as the other modules that I have hooked up, if I go into my temperature settings first, my device 1 here, this is actually my AC control module, which I'll show you here in just a moment as well. Currently we're right in early veg, running it at about 82 during day and 74 at night, which this allows the room to get up to about 86 degrees maximum before the room will reset its cycle, kicking on my next temperature device, which is the exhaust fan, which I actually have kicking on at 88 right now because I like the room to be about 84 to 86 degrees at this point during the early veg with the supplemental CO2 that I'm doing. The next temperature device actually goes hand in hand with the CO2 device, and I forget what this one's called. I'll link it correctly, but it's a module that works in conjunction with other modules to allow you to set thresholds. So in this situation, what I have is it controlling my CO2 so that my CO2 will only come on when it is under 82 degrees in the room, and obviously if it's going to be below 40, which at night, which it never will be. So that makes sure that it does not run at night, which is one thing that this system did not have when I first got it, so I'm pretty happy that they've added that module there. Now going into our humidity devices, I have device 1 here set up to turn on if it gets below 65 degrees during the day and 55% at night, and this is my humidifier. And then device number 2 is our dehumidifier, which is set to 75 during the day and 65 at night. So anytime it exceeds those thresholds, it will turn on and bring everything down 3 percentage points below whatever your settings are. So that's how this is currently set up in here. And then you have the option to hook up these program modules, which I am utilizing in a few of the other controllers, which here I'll go back up and I will show you. So for example, if we move on to the Aqua-X system, you have this display, which is going to give you your current EC readings, your temperature of your reservoir, your pH, and then if you have the sensor hooked up, you can have your current moisture content. And this is a pretty cool feature as well. Again, not to be used on every single plant, but it is nice to have kind of a reference point to the volume of water that you're feeding. And as long as you can focus on your feeding system feeding evenly, you should be able to use that as a pretty good base point for what all of your plants are kind of sitting at the moment. So I do like that feature. You can also set up things to help control your water level by automatically feeding if things get below certain thresholds. So you do have a lot of control on what you do and what triggers things once you start having all the modules and things start to be hooked up, which is really nice. But I choose to have it be based on a schedule, and then I monitor the dryback percentages based on that. So I like to have a little bit more manual control, just so that I can make sure that the plants don't get, for whatever reason, overwatered or underwatered. I prefer it to be based on my regulated cycle. So in the Aqua-X menu, you have the ability to control 110 devices or 24 volt devices, like a solenoid, and in this case I don't have any 24 volt controllers in here. Everything is basically off of 110, and all I'm using this for is 4 devices currently for feeding my reservoirs 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're all each individual pumps that feed individual trays. I don't have a single pump running with solenoids to trigger different trays to feed. It is one option, but just with my current setup, it wasn't really a good fit for me. So in my, for example, reservoir A, I have it set up to run by schedule, or you can have it run on a recycle mode. My current schedule is pretty much just 2 feedings at the moment, but I already have my other feedings lined up for different types of grow media. If I'm growing in rock wool, I'm feeding in bursts every couple of hours. Currently I'm growing in cocoa, so my feeds are spread out a little bit more, and I do up the times, or I may add in an additional feed depending on the day, depending on the week, depending on what's actually happening with the plants. You do have a lot of control, and again, you can do all of this from your phone, which is nice. So I do really enjoy the system. I do have basically the same exact thing kind of set up over here for my veg room. And one thing that I kind of went over, or glazed over I should say, is these other little modules that are hooked up here, and these are actually lighting adapters. So for my flower room, I have all ThinkGrow LED lights, which are the Model W, I believe. So I only need this T adapter here. For my veg room, I actually have a couple Model H's, so I still require the Model T, but I also have this, I think it's a Mars Hydro actually, believe they sponsored a few things a while back, and I have 3 of their lights in there. So I have this other LMA 14 adapter, and that allows me to tap into the white line, if you will, versus the far red line. And so I have a splitter up here in the output portion of my lighting control, going from one adapter to the white side of this adapter, and that allows me to actually have multiple different types of lighting control in this room running off of the same output, and still being able to utilize the far red spectrum on my mother plants when the lights go out. So again, depending on how you're setting this up, your configuration may vary a bit, but that is how I have these controllers currently set up. The wiring inside the panels I vaguely showed in the first video, but it's pretty straightforward. Inside here we have just a Netgear gigabit Ethernet switch coming in. This blue line is actually my main Ethernet coming from my router, and then I have Ethernet cords going to each device from the front panel, and then I have these 2 coming in from my bedroom panel, all connecting together, all of them putting them on my network. So this gives me the ability to now open up the TM4 app, which is really nice, and gives you pretty much control of everything you need that's on this physical control panel is on that app. So you can pretty much be out of town, see a dry notification, maybe detect a clogged pump. This also has sensors such as smoke, so if you have a fire you can also get alerts. They also have a few other additional systems that I do not have, which are specific more to recreational facilities, like CO2 high alerts, and other additional features like that, which are pretty handy depending on, again, what your configuration is. So I will take a quick second here to kind of go into the room, and I'll show you a little bit of how the wiring of all of these individual RJ connections from the various modules kind of goes into the walls, and then as it comes through the various rooms, I did put wall plates in, which again just kind of helps with the cleanliness and again kind of access to having those signals available in different places. So I'll show you that here in just a sec. Alright, so we're here in my bedroom, and this is probably the easiest place to show you. The first one is in this location I actually installed a double wall plate, and this area right here has quite a few different adapters, and the adapter that I actually meant to mention before is one of these right here, which is this interlock adapter, and this lets you set it up as either a temperature device, a humidity device, sorry about that, temperature device, humidity device, CO2 device, or a program device. And so in this situation I've set it up as a temperature device, which lets me use it as temperature related thresholds. So I have it again set to be below or above certain settings for temperature, so that at nighttime my CO2 doesn't run. So this actually just runs all the way over and goes along my wall and goes over here to this guy, because it was done after the fact. Actually, I didn't have CO2 supplementation in this room originally, but I did have all these other devices, which were the original 2 intentions, which is the AC control for this room. So this runs to the sensor that controls the RF for the mini split system. So that's the AC control, and then this is what a module looks like, and this is a humidity module. So this one's set up as my H2, and that just runs my dehumidifier that's right here on this wall. So I have these kind of variously set up. This right here is actually the 110 control panel for, again, my reservoir for flowering. This one right here is my 110 control for the veg reservoir. Here's another for my devices for my bedroom. So again, this is controlling my other humidity device, which is my humidifier. So again, this was my personal preference to set things up. On the reservoir side though, what I do have running over here is the sensor board, and that gives you your EC temp, and temp sensor, and then your pH probe. So this right here is pretty much the heart of your reservoirs, letting you know as far as what your main settings are there. Again, if you get temperature settings or pH notifications, if you have automatic settings or things, you can actually go ahead and get those set up to be able to run automatically. In my situation, most of those are all manual, so I do just take the notification and use it as an opportunity to take action on something. So that's just one of the modules and how they're wired up in the room. And again, every room is a little bit different. So you have a fresh build coming up, you'll have the ability to run all the pre-wiring, and I suggest you do that. Even if you just drill holes, it'll save you a lot of headache dealing with stuff all over the place later. And if you want to change things, you need to add something in this area, again, you already have a location where you can put a splitter or other type of device right here. And I also ended up making my own cables. I actually already have this crimper for the RJ11, so I just ordered the connectors on Amazon. These are RJ11 connectors, and I just made a bunch of short little cables so that all these items here, like these for example, are just short cables that just run to a splitter right here. So this daisy chaining system of all of these modules, which are what control all of my pumps, these are the 110A, B, C, and D right here. And then we have these additional ones that are hooked up to my Aqua-X as well, which actually just run my air pump on a regulated schedule of running for 15 minutes every hour. I think air pumps are being proven more obsolete these days, but they were already headed to a less necessary path, so I only run constant circulation. I only do the air supplementation for 15 minutes every hour or every other hour or something like that. So that'll kind of just be another thing that will phase out over time. And then this is the control for my veg reservoirs. Alright guys, so since YouTube doesn't want me to show any plants in my videos, I figured I would take this opportunity to show you a little bit of what the iOS app looks like when using the TrolMaster system. So first you'll just need to download the TM4 app, or the TM Plus app, excuse me, which I have saved right here. And in here, once you have everything connected to your network, you'll be able to look at all of the controllers that are actually hooked up to your network. In this case, I have obviously a Hydro-X for my flower room here. I have a Aqua-X for my reservoir, again Hydro-X for the veg room, Aqua-X for the reservoir, and a final Hydro-X for my dry room control. And the nice part about this, you get a green indication here telling you that everything is connected. If you have any alerts, you will see that pop up right next to the name with a little alert symbol. In this case, I've already been monitoring them, so they're cleared out. But if you click into any controller at any time, this will actually refresh data, tell you what your current device statuses are. In this case, it's going to update from whatever the last time that I looked at the app is. So there you can see it's updated. Lights are currently off. Humidity device is running down here. Temperature device number 1 and number 2 are both activated. And then up here are all my current stats. 76 degrees, 66 humidity, about 500 ppm CO2, and about 1.06 VPD at the moment. And no PPFD on the light meter because obviously lights are off. So again, really great features in here. If I wanted to now adjust my light schedule, I can go into my device status. I can click into my light number 1. I can change, maybe I would like lights to be at 600 PPFD when they come on next time. Obviously I'm still in veg, maybe I want to transition to flower. I can go ahead and just change my schedule. And again, this could be done while I'm sitting at work, sitting on vacation, whatever I would like to be doing. So lights control, quite diverse. Again, humidity, same thing. You can change this now to being an above device versus a below device. You can adjust all of your daytime, nighttime thresholds. So again, your light settings will now trigger most of your other devices. And again, you can see I have quite a bit of expansion still on the Hydro-X, and in the newer models they've obviously added quite a bit of expandability to the system, so you're able to hook up significantly more devices. And there's also quite a bit of cool new devices that have come out recently since then as well, which I have not taken advantage of. But just about every module that you could think of exists on the market to be able to connect your current system. If you go into your reservoir system, again, similar menu here. You have your EC, you have your current temperature, you have your, excuse me, you have your temperature, you have your pH, and then down here you have medium information. And some of these options here for temperature and EC in the medium are part of a new sensor that's out since then. I'm only currently able to utilize the moisture content level of the sensor, and you're able to kind of click into your current schedule and look at what everything is set at here. So these are all my A, B, C, and D reservoirs. And the nice part is you can also go into your graphs here. You can look at your historical data. All of this tells you your dry back periods and your moisture content here. So you can see things are pretty stable. We have a feeding. They dry back a bit. We have a feeding. And then they dry back a bit. And this schedule basically repeats daily. Currently only feeding 2 times per day at the moment. Again, you can monitor your EC, your temperatures, your pHs. Hopefully everything looks fairly stable across the board. A little bit of fluctuation in the temperature there, which is pretty normal as the reservoir goes through its cycles, as it's obviously in my veg room, which heats the reservoir up a little bit. But again, really powerful data here. You can look at it in a 24-hour cycle. You can look at it in a week cycle. You can look at it in a month cycle. Again, seeing if you have any major issues. And ironically, this portion right here is when I realized I had a issue with one of my water chillers. So again, these are things that help you be able to be away from your room but still be aware to current issues. Now, within this, you also have the ability to look at the same type of powerful data on your flower room side. So environmentally, you can look at CO2 levels, you can look at humidity, temperature, your VPD. This is all extremely powerful for you to be able to now fine-tune how your equipment responds relative to your actual settings of your controllers. Not everything being set to a specific temperature is going to work exactly as intended. However, this gives you a good frame of reference for everything. So, hope this kind of sheds a little bit of light on the app. I really love the usability of this app. I rarely have any issues with it. And again, you're able to pretty much have control from anywhere, which is probably the most amazing thing. I'd be on vacation and I have someone watching my room and I can tell them to go check on something specifically, which is pretty amazing for people who are not experienced in taking care of things for you. This gives you, again, a lot of that control. You can supplement this with security cameras to kind of keep a physical eye on things. And again, you're able to monitor smoke in case you have a fire. So there's a lot of powerful information that can come from the push notifications generated by the app. So again, one of the biggest reasons as to why I was drawn to this system here was this app and its network connectivity. I really am key on technology, and I'm really key on having the ability to spend my time on things that will continue to either make me money or allow me to stop focusing on things and still have the same amount of work getting done. So this really improves my productivity. As you guys know, I'm pretty much a one-man show over here, so everything you see me do, I do alone basically. And this type of technology really helps me operate in that capacity. So if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this one up. Hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know if you have any additional questions. Thanks.